Hi, I'm Marcia, and my sister's fiance demanded I hand over my resort to help her make money since she couldn't hold a job. When I said no, they didn't argue. They just took it anyway. They threw a party on my property, forged my signature, and told everyone they were the ones who built the place. And the worst part? My family asked me to let it go, to keep the peace. But what kind of peace asks you to pretend your name isn't being erased? Have you ever been betrayed so quietly? You didn't even know it was war until you were already losing? Memorial Day weekends at my mother's place were supposed to feel nostalgic. Warm sunlight filtering through the kitchen windows, the smell of slow-cooked brisket, folding chairs creaking under the weight of laughter and mild judgment. But that Sunday, the house felt crowded before I even stepped inside. The screen door let out a familiar whine as I entered, carrying a bottle of red and a tub of fruit salad. "Hey, Mom!" I called out. Doris, my mother, emerged from the kitchen with a dish towel in hand, looking flustered but pleased. "Marcia, finally! I was just telling Callista you'd be here any minute." There they were. My sister Callista perched on the arm of the sofa like she owned the place, and beside her, Warren, her fiancé. He gave me a smirk that felt just a few degrees too comfortable. "Long drive from Santa Fe?" he asked, voice as smooth as the bourbon in his glass. "Not bad," I said, placing the salad on the counter and straightening my blouse. "Quiet," Callista raised a brow. "Must be nice. Peace and quiet. Not all of us can retreat to the mountains and play entrepreneur." It started like that. Harmless jabs, the kind that passed as sibling banter in dysfunctional families. We sat, exchanged pleasantries, nibbled on crackers. But I knew something was brewing. Callista never invited me into a room unless there was a motive. "So," Warren began, swirling his drink, "we've been talking about the resort." My posture stiffened. "What about it?" Callista leaned in, elbows on her knees, eyes glittering like she was about to deliver a TED Talk. "We've got this idea. A collaboration, really. I've been out of work for a bit, just until something aligns. But I thought, maybe I could help manage the place, give it a fresh angle." Warren chimed in. "We'd structure it like a partnership. Split profits, run weekend retreats. You keep the name, we build the brand. It's a win-win." I blinked, trying to process the audacity. "You want to use the resort for your business venture?" "Not use," Callista corrected. "Grow. You've got the space. We've got the vision." I looked at my mother, expecting some sort of reaction. Instead, Doris smiled tightly and said, "Family helps family, dear, especially when they're struggling." Of course. I leaned back in my chair, measuring my response. The air felt thicker than the humidity outside. "I didn't build that place so it could become someone else's passion project." Warren chuckled, like I'd misunderstood. "It's not just about you, Marcia. Think bigger. Think family legacy." Legacy. That word made me want to scream. I remembered the nights I slept in the unfinished guest suite on a blow-up mattress, checking invoices on my laptop. I remembered hauling supplies when the delivery trucks refused to drive up the dirt road. No one was around then. No Callista. No Warren. Just me and the quiet kind of exhaustion that either breaks you or makes you build harder. I said nothing for a moment. Let them enjoy the sound of their entitlement. Callista broke the silence with a sigh. "You always do this. You hoard things. Space, time, attention. You think saying no makes you strong. It just makes you alone." Doris stepped in, voice trembling like she was already tired of the conversation. "Can't we just enjoy today? It's Memorial Day. You don't have to decide anything now." Warren tilted his head. "We've already drafted the proposal. It's just a formality, really." That's when I knew. I stood slowly. "I'm not interested." Silence. Not even the fridge dared to hum. Callista looked up at me like I'd slapped her. "You'd really let me sink like this? Your own sister?" Warren's tone dropped, all charm drained out. "You sure this is the hill you want to die on?" I didn't answer. I picked up my bag, nodded at my mother, and walked out the door before the tears could betray my face. The drive back to Santa Fe was quiet, just the way I liked it. I didn't play music. I didn't talk. I just let the miles unwind the knot in my chest. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the porch, watching the last of the light disappear behind the mountains. Then my phone buzzed. LinkedIn notification. Callista Duval has updated her job title. General Manager at the Vey Retreat. I didn't even sit down when I got home. I tossed my purse on the counter, slipped off my shoes at the door like I always do, and was halfway to pouring a glass of water when the notification lit up my screen. Callista Duval has updated her job title. General Manager at the Vey Retreat. For a second, I thought it was a mistake. Some kind of LinkedIn algorithm fluke. But then, I saw the post attached. Her face, smiling in front of the resort gates, standing a bit too far forward, so the sign with my name was almost cropped out. The caption read, "Excited to start this new journey, managing a place that means so much to my family." It hit harder than any confrontation. It wasn't just a boundary crossed. It was a public rewriting of my life's work. My fingers curled around the edge of the counter. The truth wasn't just being bent. It was being replaced. I stared at her post, then at the dozens of likes, comments, shares. Some from people I hadn't seen in years. "So proud of you, Callista." This is what family business looks like. The kind of words that don't bother to ask what's real, only what looks good online. I picked up the phone and dialed. No hesitation. "Marcia," Callista answered, like I was calling to congratulate her. "Saw your comment. Oh, wait, you didn't leave one." "What the hell is this?" I asked. My voice was calm, but it vibrated with something sharp. She gave a soft laugh, like this was no big deal. "Chill, it's just for optics. You know how hiring managers scroll these days. Makes me look like I'm active. It's not like I said I owned it." "You implied it," I said. "That post made it sound like you're running the whole show." "It's not like people care that much, Marcia. And anyway, it's family. What's yours is, sort of, ours, right?" I didn't even get a chance to answer before Warren's voice echoed in the background. "It's all family anyway. Might as well look unified." I ended the call without a word. The next day, people started tagging me. Friends from college, my old mentor from Albuquerque, even a woman I'd met once at a wedding. All commenting on Callista's announcement, some adding me in replies, assuming I was part of it. One woman wrote, "What a beautiful family collaboration. You must be so proud." That word again. I clicked through the photos Callista posted, walking the garden paths, posing by the fireplace, her arms crossed like she'd designed the place herself. The same fireplace I hand-laid tile around at 2 in the morning. The same patio I sanded while icing my knees. She didn't just borrow my space, she was erasing me from it. That night, I got an email from a guest, someone I didn't recognize. "Hi there. I tried booking a weekend at the resort and got a little confused. Your sister said she was the owner and asked me to send payment through her directly. Just wanted to confirm that was legit?" My chest tightened. I checked the booking system. Several entries had been added, but not through our official channels. All recent. All linked to email addresses I didn't recognize. But when I cross-checked the names on social media, they were all people Callista followed. She'd already started. Unofficially renting out my property to her friends like it was hers to give. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I opened a new tab and started reading through the New Mexico Property Code. Tenant fraud. Identity misrepresentation. Civil damages. By morning, I had a folder full of screenshots, post captures, booking inconsistencies, and a draft email to my attorney. I wasn't about to play this on their turf. Not anymore. I wasn't going to post a subtweet or beg mom to intervene. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about facts. A few days later, I drove quietly to Taos. My attorney met me outside her office, her hair in a tight braid and a folder already in hand. I told her everything. She didn't gasp, didn't coddle, just nodded and said, "Let's make a paper trail before they burn down the truth." That night, as I settled back in Santa Fe, a message from an old friend popped up on my phone. Hey, just saw the news. Did you really give Callista the resort? That's so generous of you. I sat there, phone in hand, heart steady. No. And I think it's time people know that. By the time I got back from Taos that afternoon, I was mentally spent. Between legal consults, file folders, and my own swirling anger, all I wanted was a moment to sit without someone else's expectations clawing at me. There was an envelope tucked halfway under the doormat. Manila. My name in my mother's handwriting, soft cursive, too careful, like she was trying to convince the paper not to upset me. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the dining table and made tea instead, letting the kettle scream longer than necessary before turning it off. Once the house was still, I slid my finger beneath the flap and pulled out the letter. "My sweet girl," it began. That should have warned me. The next few paragraphs dripped with carefully crafted warmth. Phrases like, "with concern, not criticism," and "family always finds its way back." Then came the real ask, wrapped in passive pleasantries. "Perhaps there's a way to reconsider. Pride has divided sisters before, and I'd hate to see that happen here." No mention of Callista's lies. No reference to the bookings she'd funneled through back channels or the job title she'd gifted herself. Just a gentle scolding aimed at me, because clearly the problem wasn't the invasion. It was that I dared to call it what it was. Guilt wears many faces. My mother's took the shape of long-winded sentences dressed as concern. I set the letter down and leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling like it might explain to me how a daughter turns into a villain for saying, "This is mine." Not a single line acknowledged what had been done, just what I hadn't allowed. That night, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months, Dr. Melanie Pierce, my old therapist from Santa Fe. I hadn't booked a session since before I opened the resort. I didn't even know if she still had my file. But when she answered, her voice hadn't changed. "Marcia? Yeah, I might need to unpack something." We didn't do formalities. I told her about the letter, about the fake job title, the rentals, the family chat, the voicemail from Mom that started with a sigh and ended in a veiled warning. "Let me ask you something," she said gently. "Do you think your mother's letter was written to connect or to control?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't need to. "I think," I said slowly, "it was a way to ask me to feel bad for not letting myself be used." There was a pause. Then she said, "Loyalty that cost you your identity isn't loyalty, Marcia. It's slow death." When the call ended, I sat for a long time in the dark, holding the letter. I didn't tear it up. I didn't frame it. I just added it to the growing file of things I no longer had to carry with shame. 2 days later, I was back in Taos, this time with a thicker binder. My attorney, Alicia, took one look at my face and slid her laptop to the side. "You ready to start your own file?" "I already did," I said. "Now I want to make it official." I handed over screenshots, guest lists, banking anomalies, Callista's LinkedIn post, and now, the letter. Alicia raised a brow but said nothing. She slipped it into a plastic sleeve, marked it as contextual evidence. "They crossed a line," I told her. "Now they don't get to pretend I imagined it." She nodded once. "We'll respond accordingly." I didn't go straight home after that. I drove to the resort instead. The air in Taos was crisper than it had been just a week earlier. I let myself in through the side entrance. The front desk was quiet. Too quiet. There was a photo sitting there I hadn't noticed before. Framed, polished. One from years ago. Me, Callista, and our parents, standing in front of the cabin on its first day open. Back when it still smelled like pine and paint. I picked it up, flipped it over. A sticky note on the back, in Callista's handwriting. Imagine the look on her face when she finds out. That was it. No signature. Just a note to Warren, I assumed. Like this was all a joke to them, a game. I stood there, still holding the frame, breathing through the weight in my chest. They didn't just cross a line. They built a house on it. The photo was still in my hand. I'd been standing there, Staring at the sticky note stuck to the back for so long, my fingers had started to cramp. 5 words. Just 5 words in Callista's slanted handwriting, curved like it was meant to look casual. Imagine the look on her face. I wasn't hurt anymore. Not in the way that makes your throat close up or your eyes sting. This was different, colder, sharper, like the moment you realize the wound's no longer bleeding, just hardened over. They weren't just testing me, they were mocking me, and I'd had enough. The next morning, I called Alicia before I even had my first cup of coffee. She answered on the first ring. "I'm ready," I told her. "Walk me through it," she said, her voice steady. I laid it out, the fake bookings, the lies, the post, the sticky note. She didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. By the end, we both knew what needed to happen. That same afternoon, I compiled everything. Screenshots of Callista's LinkedIn, emails from guests, the note, the photos. I organized them into folders. Labeled, time-stamped, dated. I didn't tell my mother, or anyone. This wasn't for them. This was for the record. The cease and desist letter went out via certified mail the next day. Signed, sealed, tracked. 2 days later, my phone rang while I was reviewing invoices. "Doris." "Marcia," she said, already exasperated. "What did you send to your sister?" "I sent a legal notice," I replied. "What on earth for?" she demanded. "Why would you take this outside the family?" "Because talking inside the family got me ignored." "She's upset. You made her cry." "And she made money pretending to be me," I said evenly. The silence on the other end stretched long. "She's your sister." "I'm aware." "And you're going to make this ugly, public?" "I'm going to make it stop." She sniffed, the way she always did when she was about to deliver guilt as if it were a gift. "You could have just called her. You didn't have to humiliate her." "She humiliated herself," I said, and I meant it. She ended the call not with understanding, but with a soft sob and the words, "You used to be more forgiving." I didn't call back. That same evening, I opened Facebook and saw Callista had posted a vague, long-winded update. Sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones who wound the deepest. I never imagined I'd be painted as the villain for trying to build something beautiful with my family. The comments were instant, overflowing. "You're strong, girl." "Some people just don't understand gratitude." "She's always been jealous." And just like that, perception twisted again. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. Let them believe what they want. The truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits. What I didn't expect was the call from Jake, one of our supply vendors, 2 days later. "Hey Marcia, just checking in. Got a message from Warren earlier. Said there's some internal disputes happening and that we should hold off on the next shipment." I felt my jaw tighten. "What else did he say?" "That's about it. But, look, if there's trouble, I'd rather not get caught in the middle." I thanked him, hung up, and sat still. It was happening. They weren't just playing social media games anymore. They were actively undermining operations. That night, another notification arrived. A package, signed from a law firm I didn't recognize. I tore the envelope open and scanned the first page. Notice of intent to mediate, business disruption and miscommunication regarding the Vey retreat. The wording was slick, deliberately neutral, but the message was clear. They weren't backing down. They were escalating. I placed the letter gently on my desk, sat back, took a long breath through my nose. "You wanted war, Callista," I said aloud, my voice echoing in the stillness of the room. "So let's make it legal." It started with a ping, one of those half-innocent notifications that sneak in while you're halfway through sorting receipts or answering vendor emails. This one came from Facebook. I didn't even register the name until the image loaded. Callista, front and center, flanked by balloons and guests, at my resort. The caption read, "So grateful to celebrate at our family's place. Thank you for the vision, sis." I froze. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from shock, but calculation. I clicked through the photos. There it was, The pergola I spent months planning, now strung with garlands and gold foil letters that read, "Happy birthday, Warren." I hadn't approved a single event. No booking, no notice, no heads up. I switched tabs and opened the security feed for the resort. It was live. People were there. Now. On screen, Callista strolled the property like she'd spent her life curating every inch of it. She paused beside the patio fire pit and told a cluster of guests, "We designed this space with intimate gatherings in mind. Took months to get the lighting just right." We? I remember sweating through 2 shirts that week, negotiating with electricians over ground wiring that kept shorting. She was still working in marketing back then, sending links to Pinterest boards, not hauling bricks. The video panned to Warren holding court near the bar. I turned up the volume. "She's just the money," he laughed to a guest. "I'm the vision. We're planning quarterly retreats, spiritual wellness stuff, maybe some light networking, easy cash flow." I stopped the feed and grabbed my keys. The drive to Taos didn't feel like any other. The sun dipped lower with each mile, casting long, judgmental shadows across the highway. I didn't call anyone, didn't warn a soul. When I pulled into the lot, the guests had gone. The music had stopped. All that remained were cigarette butts, wine-stained napkins, and Warren's jacket slung over a lawn chair like it belonged there. The pergola still held remnants of the banner. Warren dangled limply, the wind tugging at its corners. Inside, a vase lay shattered on the floor. One suite smelled of mildew. Someone must have left the windows open during a storm. A half-empty bottle of my best Cabernet sat on the counter with lipstick-stained glasses. I walked room to room, phone in hand, taking photos. Not just for evidence, for remembrance. A record of what disrespect looks like when it's wrapped in family ties and celebration hashtags. "They didn't just disrespect me," I whispered. "They disrespected the land I bled to build." The next morning, I called the maintenance staff, canceled all bookings for the week. Everyone cooperated, though a few looked confused. One, Greg, the groundskeeper, asked hesitantly, "We thought they had your permission, Marcia." I shook my head. They didn't. And going forward, no one enters without written approval, even if they claim to share my blood. He nodded, quietly embarrassed. Understood. I sent Alicia the photos, the guest list I pieced together from Callista's social posts, and a rough estimate of damages. Then I changed every access code on the property. Again. That evening, I sat in my living room and opened Facebook. Callista had posted a carousel of smiling faces from the party. Her and Warren, their friends, candles, champagne. The caption read, "So lucky to have a space that feels like home. Thank you to everyone who made last night unforgettable." I uploaded one image in response. A close-up of the damaged suite, wine pooled across the carpet. A lone heel left abandoned on the floor. Caption, "Not everything beautiful is given freely. Sometimes it's taken without asking." I didn't tag her. I didn't need to. Hours later, a message request came in on Instagram. "Hi, I was at the party. You don't know me, but I think you should see this." Attached was a video. Callista and Warren, recorded on someone's phone, standing by the bar. Her voice low but clear. "If we post enough, make it look like it's already ours. The legal stuff won't matter. People believe what they see." Warren added, laughing. "By the time she gets serious, it'll be too late. It'll already look like ours on paper." I watched the video twice. Saved it. Forwarded it to Alicia. Then I sat back, closed my eyes, and said out loud to no one, "You wanted a legacy built on lies? Let's see how long it stands." The moment I hit play on the video sent by that anonymous party guest, I knew I wasn't just dealing with arrogance anymore. I was dealing with strategy. On screen, Callista and Warren were standing just off to the side of the pergola, drinks in hand, talking low but clear enough for the phone's mic to catch every word. "All we need is a few more posts before the narrative sticks," she said. "After that, it's just paperwork." Warren chuckled. "Exactly. Make it look like ours long enough, and it'll be ours, legally or not." My stomach didn't drop. My heart didn't race. It was a clean, quiet break inside me. A click, like a lock sliding into place after years of rattling loose. I forwarded the video to Alicia with no caption, just the file. She'd know what to do. Then, I opened the admin dashboard of the resort's security system. One by one, I revoked every access code, every digital key, every backup override. They were out. I canceled all deliveries for the week. I emailed every vendor and partner we'd worked with in the last 6 months. Temporary maintenance scheduled, access suspended. We apologize for the inconvenience. I changed passcodes, I rewired locks, and for good measure, I notified staff that all approvals going forward would require direct sign-off from me, in writing. I wasn't just protecting a place anymore. I was protecting the truth. 3 days passed before they noticed. I was at my desk finishing a vendor call when my phone lit up with a string of missed calls from Callista. Then Warren, then Callista again. Then a text. Warren, we need to talk. You're taking this too far. I didn't respond. Instead, I contacted Joel, my security contact in Taos. Can you have a car do a soft watch near the gates for the next 72 hours? He replied within minutes. Already on it. Figured this was coming. The next morning, I found out Warren had emailed one of my corporate retreat clients directly, implying there was internal instability at the ownership level. The client forwarded it to me with a polite note. Marcia, just wanted to check in? Is everything all right on your end? I got this strange message. No signature, just Warren's fingerprints. I sat with Alicia that afternoon and filed a preliminary injunction. Unauthorized interference, business defamation, attempted misrepresentation of property control. We're building the wall now, she said. You're not just defending the line anymore. You're laying the foundation for legal action. Later that night, I went through our guest review portal, looking for patterns in spam reviews we'd started receiving. In the middle of the mess, I saw a review left by a former guest, unprompted. Still one of the most peaceful weekends I've had. Owner was gracious, space was clean, views unforgettable. Ignore the drama. This place speaks for itself. It wasn't a direct defense, but it was timely. I didn't know who they were, but I whispered, "Thank you," under my breath. A few hours later, a text from a neighbor of the property buzzed through. Tom. Saw 2 people trying to jiggle the gates yesterday. Told them if I saw it again, I'd call the sheriff. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. The kind of stare you give not out of disbelief, but because reality is confirming what you feared. You were never being paranoid. People like to act like betrayal is a knife to the chest. But the truth is, it's more like erosion. It wears you down. Until you're a shell of a person who second-guesses every instinct. Then, in one moment, it flips. And you realize you weren't crazy. You were just being slowly erased. I sat at my desk around 10:15 that night, updating invoices and logging vendor notes when another ping arrived. An alert from the bank. Suspicious activity detected. Possible payment redirection. I clicked through. The numbers weren't just off. They were bleeding. Thousands gone. Rerouted through a shadow account tied to a name that looked suspiciously like a Shell LLC. I leaned back, closed my eyes. They hadn't just broken boundaries. They were inside my walls. The bank manager's voice was calm, almost annoyingly so, as she walked me through the flagged transactions. We noticed a pattern of withdrawals starting 2 weeks ago, she said. All routed through an account linked to a business entity that used to be authorized on a different cardholder file. A name popped up, one I hadn't seen on anything official in years. Callista. She still had access to a vendor account I'd created years ago for decor and staging purchases when we opened the resort. It should have been deactivated. I thought I had. But it was buried in an old shared profile that somehow slipped through my security sweep. My jaw clenched. I asked the bank to freeze the account immediately. Damage control was no longer just about my name. It was about every dollar tied to that name. They didn't just try to take my identity. They went for the veins of the business itself. That evening, While scanning paper statements to prepare an updated financial report for Alicia, a courier rang the doorbell. I opened the door to find a young man holding a large envelope and a clipboard. Marcia Vey? Yes. You've been served. The words landed like a slap. I shut the door, tore open the envelope, and scanned the first few lines. Plaintiffs, Callista Duval and Warren Gaskin defendant, Marcia Vey, claim. Loss of revenue, interference with business opportunity, breach of verbal agreement. My knees didn't buckle, my breath didn't catch. I just sat down. They had filed first. They were accusing me of disrupting their business, claiming I had verbally agreed, in front of family witnesses, to share managerial control of the resort. The same resort I had paid for, maintained, and lived for. This wasn't just twisted, it was calculated. The next morning, I gathered with Alicia and Jonah, my accountant, in her conference room. We spread out every document, every email, every calendar invite from the past 6 months. They're using things like brunch conversations and vague texts as legal footing, Alicia muttered. This is smoke and mirrors. But we're going to need more than truth. We need clarity in paper. I pulled out a notebook and began drafting my own timeline. Dates, events, conversations, every instance of misrepresentation, every lie, every moment I said no, and they ignored me. This isn't just a court battle, I said, flipping to a fresh page. It's a war for my identity. 3 hours later, Alicia was drafting our counterclaim. Fraud, unauthorized use of property, defamation. Jonah flagged inconsistencies in the accounts that made Warren and Callista's claims look even more desperate. But the battle wasn't just in court. Later that week, I opened the family group chat and saw a new thread from Callista. A long message full of veiled insults, spiritual language about choosing compassion, and screenshots of my cease and desist letter, heavily redacted, but enough to stir the pot. Doris chimed in. Marcia, please don't escalate. Just find peace. We can work this out without lawyers. I didn't reply. I didn't explain. I just left the group chat. No farewell. The silence said more than I ever could. That weekend, I heard from one of my long-standing business contacts, Jenna, who coordinated luxury retreats. She forwarded an email Warren had sent her. Just a heads up, Marcia's been going through a rough patch emotionally. Might want to hold off on working with her until she finds her footing again. I felt heat rise up my neck. Not because of the words, but because of the strategy. He wasn't fighting fair. He was fighting dirty. I told Alicia to prepare a formal statement. No drama, just clarity. She sent a letter to every affiliate, reaffirming my position as sole owner and operator of the Vey Retreat, with a legal warning against defamatory implications. By Monday morning, my operations manager forwarded me a call log from the front desk line. Figured you should see this, she wrote. There it was. 6 calls in the past 3 days from a number tied to a prepaid line. But the ID? Operations manager, Vey Retreat. The same number had contacted 3 of our vendors and 2 confirmed guests. They're impersonating you, she added, or trying to. I read the timestamp on the last call. 9:42 a.m. today. I sat back in my chair, folded my arms across my chest. They're not backing down, I muttered to myself. Then, louder, so I could hear it in my own voice. Neither am I. The screenshot landed in my inbox just past 8 a.m., sent from my cousin Lynn, someone who rarely got involved in family drama unless it directly threatened the annual Thanksgiving seating chart. Her message was brief. Thought you should see this. Callista had posted a long thread in the family group chat overnight. It was dressed in half-truths and bathed in victimhood, framed as a journal entry to a group that never asked for one. It breaks my heart that things have come to this, she wrote, but I've been nothing but patient. I tried to collaborate, to build something beautiful. Instead, I've been attacked, discredited, and shut out by someone who used to call me sister. This isn't about business anymore. It's about control. Then came the screenshots, heavily cropped messages that showed me asking about unauthorized bookings, but stripped of context. No mention of the forged emails, the party, the theft. I didn't respond, not even a period. Instead, I took my own screenshot and added it to the growing legal file I'd been curating like a memoir no one would want to read, but everyone would believe when shown in court. The comments began rolling in from distant aunts and uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. "You've changed, Marcia. What happened to keeping family first? She's always been a little intense, hasn't she?" I closed the app. My heart didn't pound. I didn't cry. But I felt tired in a way I hadn't before. An exhaustion that comes not from fighting battles, but from realizing no one noticed when the war started. An hour later, I missed a call from Doris. Then another. Then a voicemail. "Marcia," her voice cracked, "please don't let this become a scandal. Your father's upset. He hasn't said it, but I know this is weighing on him. Just fix this quietly. For us. For the family." There it was again. The unspoken script. Her tone was softer now, almost worn out, but still void of the one thing that could have cracked the shell around my chest. Accountability. She didn't say Callista lied. She didn't say we were wrong. She just asked me to erase it all, quietly. I played the message twice, not for the words, but for what was missing. That afternoon, a Zoom invite hit my inbox. Family discussion, let's clear the air. Against my better judgment, I joined. The screen filled with familiar faces. Doris, looking tired. My Uncle Gary, a few cousins. And then Callista, front and center, eyes red, face flushed, looking like a soap opera protagonist who just learned her fiancé was leaving her for the nanny. "I just want us to be whole again," she said, wiping at invisible tears. "I don't know how we got here, but I hate it. I never meant for any of this to happen." Warren sat beside her, calm and cool, chiming in with phrases like miscommunication and shared intent and verbal understanding. I let them speak. I took notes. And when they were done, I shared my screen. One click showed footage from the unauthorized party. Another, the bank withdrawal logs. Then, the video of them conspiring over cocktails, unaware they were being recorded. The room fell into silence, the kind that felt like vacuum-sealed air. "You asked to talk," I said. "Here's my side." Warren cleared his throat, visibly thrown. "This isn't about a resort. This is about control." I didn't flinch. "Exactly, and I'm taking mine back." Without a word, Doris clicked off. Her little square on the screen blinked to black. The call ended in silence. That night, Alicia messaged, "Filing confirmed. Your countersuit is live. Documentation attached." I scrolled through the PDF. Screenshots, statements, invoices, videos. This wasn't a feud. It was a forensic file. The following morning, I received an email from an anonymous Gmail address. Subject line, "She's planning something else. You need to be ready." No greeting. Just a single sentence and one attachment. "You didn't hear this from me." The email came in just past sunrise, buried between billing notices and a newsletter I never subscribed to. No subject line, no name. Just a Gmail handle that meant nothing to me. But the attachment, that was impossible to ignore. It was a scan of a lease agreement. My name, my business, my signature. Except, it wasn't. The document claimed that I, Marcia Vey, had granted partial operational control of the resort to Callista Duval 6 months ago. The date alone was a red flag. The address listed was one I hadn't used in 3 years. The phrasing was stiff, off-brand. Even the signature, it looked like mine from old credit card slips, not how I sign legal forms now. Beneath the attachment, a single line of text. "She's trying to backdate this and submit it. Get ahead of her." I didn't hesitate. I sent it to Alicia before I even put water on for coffee. Her response came less than 10 minutes later. "I'll meet you at 9 a.m. By the time I arrived at her office, she had a binder open on the table and a yellow legal pad filled with scribbles. I dropped the printout on top of it. "It's fabricated," I said. "Flat out." Alicia nodded, flipping through reference signatures we'd compiled from other filings. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore, but it's enough to trigger a filing unless we challenge it now. She was already drafting a motion to freeze any court action based on the document. We'll file a forgery rebuttal by noon. You'll need to sign a declaration under penalty of perjury. I didn't even blink. Give me the pen. As we worked, Alicia muttered, mostly to herself, "The only thing more dangerous than a lie is a lie dressed up in your name." The judge granted a temporary halt by early afternoon. Any motions involving the forged lease would be frozen until a formal hearing. But of course, Callista's team immediately shifted gears, pressing for mediation instead, hoping to circumvent the challenge. That night, as I poured myself a glass of water and sat down at the kitchen counter, my phone buzzed with a call from Doris. She didn't start with pleasantries. "I know things are tense," she said, voice low, "but please don't drag this out in court." "I didn't forge a lease, Mom." "I'm not saying that." "No, you're saying I shouldn't escalate, that I should ignore it." Again. "I just think, let me stop you." I took a breath. At what point do I stop being the villain just because I said no? There was silence on the line. Then the sound of her breathing, tired and unresolved. We ended the call without goodbyes. The next morning, I got a message from Kelsey, our old resort bookkeeper from the first year. "Hey, weird question," it read. "Did you ever ask Callista to pull old letterheads from archive files?" I stared at the screen. "No, why?" "She said you were digitizing old records and needed a few blank ones. This was like 3 months ago." I called her immediately. "Did you give them to her?" "Yeah, a few. I didn't think anything of it." "I do now," I said. "Thanks, Kels. This helps a lot." I added the message to the evidence timeline. The puzzle was coming together, and it pointed one direction: intent. Later that evening, I drove back to Taos. I needed to breathe different air. But as I stood at the front gate of the resort, keys in hand, the view that once calmed me now felt tainted. This wasn't just a property anymore. It was a battlefield, one where every inch of ground I had earned was being dragged through mud by people who hadn't lifted a single stone. I closed my eyes and tried to find that version of me who once stood here with blueprints and big hopes, who opened this place thinking it might become a quiet retreat, not just for guests, but for myself. "They signed nothing," I whispered. "I built everything, and I will not be erased." The next morning, as I was sorting paperwork in my office, my phone buzzed again. Voicemail, Warren. His voice was clipped, smug. "You thought we wouldn't go this far? You should have played nice." I didn't listen twice. I deleted it and turned to the thick file on my desk, dozens of pages deep now, tabbed and time-stamped. I clicked my pen, stared out the window, and said it aloud. Game on. The email subject line read, "Cancellation Notice, Harmony Collective Group Retreat." I didn't need to open it. My stomach already knew. But I clicked anyway, because that's what owners do. We don't flinch. The message was short and sterile. Due to recent concerns circulating in local press and social media, and in the interest of protecting our organization's reputation, we have decided to cancel our upcoming booking at the Vey Retreat. No deposit refund necessary. We appreciate your understanding. It wasn't about the money. It was about the erosion of trust, carefully sown over 2 years and undone in 2 weeks by people who never once touched the soil beneath this place. I sat at the edge of the bed in the guest suite I used when I worked late, the silence so loud I could hear the blood behind my eyes. "They managed to make me look like a risk," I whispered, staring at the floor, in a space I built from the ground up. By afternoon, Warren's final blow made the rounds online. A Facebook post, vague and laced with implication. Not everyone who builds success earned it. Some just got lucky being born into the right family. He didn't mention names. He didn't have to. The comments ballooned quickly. "Well said. I always wondered where the funding came from. Some folks wouldn't know hard work if it hit them. Alicia drafted a cease and desist that same night. I signed it, hands steady. Let's send it and file defamation if he so much as breathes another word. Then I took a walk through the main hall. My reflection caught in the window, exhausted, unshaken. Funny, I muttered. I didn't realize pouring concrete and paying taxes was luck. The next day, I posted a single photo to my professional page. A stone, not fancy, just a cornerstone I had laid on opening day, dated and signed with permanent ink. In the background, the early structure of the resort, framed by blue sky and promise. Caption: for those wondering, this is how legacy is built, with hands, not hashtags. The post took off. Not viral in a teenage dance video way, but hundreds of shares, heartfelt comments from former guests, former staff, architects, even a few industry peers who had gone silent until now. You gave me my first hospitality job. Our engagement weekend at your place was unforgettable. She's the real deal. I've watched her work. Respect to the woman who built something real in a world full of smoke. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't need to. Then, Alicia called with news. The emergency protective order's been granted. Full freeze on property activity and business accounts. The forged lease is officially under fraud investigation. I took the call on the back porch, staring out at the hills behind the property. The quiet buzz of the wind turbines miles away reminded me how still victory could feel. This isn't about revenge anymore, I said softly. It's about restoring truth to the record. Later that week, I turned down an interview request from a local journalist. We're doing a piece on small businesses weathering internal sabotage. You'd be perfect, off the record even. No, I said, gentle but firm. Not yet. I walked the resort grounds that night. No event, no vendors, no guests. Just me and the gravel crunching beneath my boots. It didn't feel hollow. It felt claimed. When I got back to the office, Alicia was waiting with a smile that almost cracked her usual composure. We're ahead now, she said. Don't flinch. I won't. That night, just as I was shutting down my laptop, a voice message came through. Callista. Her voice was shaky, a breathy mess of panic and confession. If I lose him, I lose everything. You win. Was that what you wanted? I didn't press play a second time. Instead, I whispered aloud what I had carried too long. You lost you. I just stopped covering for it. The envelope had no return address, no sender, just my name, typed, centered, sterile and silent. It arrived on a Thursday. I found it in the morning mail, wedged between a landscaping flyer and a reminder from the county assessor's office. For a moment, I thought it might be another veiled threat or half-hearted olive branch. But when I slid the document out, my heart paused. A deed amendment, signed by my father. Full transfer of legal ownership of the resort to me. No conditions, no shared clauses, no fine print. Tucked inside was a note, scribbled in my father's handwriting, small, precise, the way he used to label electrical breakers in the garage. You never needed our permission, but now it's on paper. Dad. No emotion, just fact. A quiet conclusion to a storm he never publicly joined. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat down and stared out the window for a while, letting the truth settle in. Something inside me unclenched. For the first time in months, I felt like the ground beneath me belonged to me again. Later that afternoon, I found myself digging through a box of old photos. Ones from the early days, before the tension, before the suits and statements and smear campaigns. Just me, a hammer and hope. There was a photo of me, covered in sawdust, grinning next to an unpainted porch beam. I remembered the ache in my back that day, the way I'd eaten half a rotisserie chicken, with my bare hands on the tailgate of my truck after dark. Back then, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just trying to build something that felt real. Looking at those photos now, the ache wasn't anger anymore. It was distance. I no longer felt the need to win the family back. Whatever I thought reconciliation looked like, it wasn't worth the price tag. Winning would have meant pretending none of this happened, and I wasn't sure I wanted that kind of peace. That evening, my phone lit up again. Doris. I let it ring once before I answered. "Hi," she said, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. "Hi," I replied. "I'm not calling to argue," she said. I wanted to ask that you not hate us. Me." "I don't hate you, Mom," I said. "I just don't recognize you anymore." There was silence on the other end. Not wounded, not angry, just tired. "I don't know how to fix it," she whispered. "Maybe it's not mine to fix." We didn't hang up. We just let the silence stretch until one of us ended the call. I don't remember who. The next day, I walked the property with the team. Alex from maintenance, Janelle from guest services, Peter from the kitchen staff. We did what we always did. Checked water pressure, tightened hinges, replaced chipped tiles. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I belonged in my own business again. "You've never needed permission to lead, Marcia," Janelle said, as we fixed a loose sign near the parking lot. "You just needed space to stop apologizing." I nodded. Not because I was agreeing, but because she was right. That night, I posted a photo from the ridge behind the resort. The sun was breaking through clouds, lighting the mountains in soft gold. No filter, no caption designed to provoke. Just this. Some people inherit bloodlines, others inherit burdens, and some choose to break both. I didn't reply to the comments. I didn't need to. I logged off. Later that week, Alicia forwarded me an email, this time from Callista's lawyer. It was labeled Formal Apology. The body was full of language I'm sure the legal team carefully selected. Regret, misunderstanding, desire for peace. But the line at the bottom stuck with me more than any of that. My client would like to meet in person, for peace. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop. Sometimes, peace means not reopening old wars. The email came through just after 8 a.m. Its subject line a familiar blend of condescension and false hope. Final peace proposal. The Vey Retreat. I didn't open it immediately. I made coffee first, took the long way through the hallway, straightened a chair that no one had touched. I watched the steam curl from the mug and disappear, like all the reasons I used to keep trying to be the one who de-escalated. Then I opened the file. It was dressed up as a settlement, though every clause reeked of surrender on my end. Shared statements, public apologies from both parties, a joint photo opportunity to restore public perception, and, buried in legal phrasing, the most insidious line, acknowledgement of misunderstanding between sisters. Not once did it say what had actually happened. Not once did it name the lies, the theft, the betrayal. They didn't want peace. They wanted a rewrite. I closed the email mid-sentence. That afternoon, I sat down with my team. Not just the legal one. The people who'd walked this path beside me, former staff, loyal guests, local partners. We spent the next 3 days creating a media release that wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a reclaiming. We compiled everything. Timeline, ownership documents, video evidence, testimonials. A short documentary-style clip narrated not by me, but by those who'd worked here, who'd seen it built. One of the construction workers said, "I remember her on site in the rain, holding blueprints and cussing at mud." Another, "She didn't inherit this. She built it. Don't let anyone tell you different." We uploaded the video quietly on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it had 250,000 views. And then, the tide turned. Callista's carefully curated online image shattered under the weight of receipts. Her followers stopped commenting. Then she turned off comments altogether. Within days, her account vanished. Warren's business partnerships crumbled faster than he could delete old press clippings. 2 local vendors pulled out of his side projects. A podcast he'd booked removed his episode entirely. Doris went silent. The group chat that once buzzed with weekly photos and unsolicited articles died with a whimper. No one said goodbye. It wasn't revenge. It was the truth, with timestamps. Weeks passed. Quiet settled in the way it only does after a storm you never asked to fight. I didn't plan a celebration, but I did plan a moment. We held a small gathering at the resort. Just staff, some returning clients, a few community folks who stood by me when I had every reason to fold. Under the crisp sky, we unveiled a plaque mounted near the entrance gate. For the ones who build quietly, your legacy is louder than noise. No applause, just nods, just truth. That evening, long after the last guest had gone, and the dishes were stacked in silence, I walked the perimeter alone. I carried with me a small shadow box. Inside was the original key to the resort's front gate, the one I'd changed 3 times in 6 months. I placed it in the glass frame and wrote in black marker beneath it, "Retired locks, retired fears." Then I hung it in the back office, where no one but me would see it. The next morning, I met a reporter for a profile piece she was writing, not for gossip, but for legacy. After the formal questions ended, she paused, recorder still in hand. "Would you ever reconcile if they apologized?" I smiled slightly, eyes on the distant pines. I didn't ask for an apology. I asked for respect. Then I turned to her, steady. "The difference is, one of them is mine to give myself,